I thought courage was something I needed to dig deep for. I felt free when I realized it was about being open, like a blossom opening up on a fruit tree. For many years, I was digging deep inside me to find my courage, with a need to go deeper and deeper, like a miner in the hopes of finding it. I never realized that this approach actually made me withdraw from the world around me, especially when I became shaken by a change that impacted who I am. It happened for the changes that I did not like or invite, and even with the positive ones I welcomed, like getting a new customer or promotion. The change shifted something inside me that influenced how I saw myself and how I showed myself in public. The digging deeper for courage was something I knew with experience I was supposed to do. After all, I had enough experience to know that the bulk of any answer was usually found within us. Though I achieved some courageous wins with this approach, I discovered it was limiting me. This act became a good way to hide with an illusion that I was being proactive, that I was trying to find a solution, when really it was a clever way for me to put my warm and comfortable blanket over me as I stayed in my comfort zone. I became stuck here because I knew I was no longer who I was, but I was not yet who I was becoming. This impacted how I communicated because I no longer felt connected to what I knew and had not yet discovered the clarity of the new message I wanted to say. There were some very good fragments, but the whole story I did not have. I could not articulate it well. It felt like it was at the tip of my tongue and I couldn't get it out. In my first book, Confidence Booster: Affirmations to Reframe Your Mindset and Boost Confidence, I said, confidence comes from courage. Courage comes from a trust within you. I learned through the process of creating the Speak Afraid method that the first step of courage is to trust yourself. The second step is to make a decision to be courageous. The third step is to act on it. Then courage becomes present, and your reward is confidence. The struggle I felt was exploring how I could trust myself when I was in the gap of uncertainty between who I was and who I am becoming. It was when fear showed up the most and came across as both a loud and overbearing nagger and a quietly spoken yet persistent pain. My comfort zone was my place of safety, even though it no longer felt like home. It was safe because I was highly familiar with it. I knew how to navigate it, even the parts I did not like. Yet, all the new things that change brings with it, I did not know how to navigate. As a person who loves to learn, I invested in coaching and different development programs to discover ways I can keep moving forward through the change I was facing. It was great, but personalizing it to my own experience of change and how that change was shaping who I was becoming, that was a very lonely path. That loneliness influenced my communication skills. Not the technique, skills, or methods, but how I applied it and made it my own in the new context I was now speaking in. My presence became smaller. I knew the techniques on how to show up with confidence, but the owning it part, I felt like a fraud and a fake because I was in this between state of discovering who I was becoming. So I rather stay small so no one else could figure out that I didn't have it all figured out yet. My voice became silent, or I became quieter in every room I was in because I didn't want to give too much away, or I didn't have anything to say, or I was going through a deep moment of insecurity where I felt like what I wanted to say had no value for others and I didn't want to waste their time. Little changes that didn't mean too much to me were easier to go through and didn't take much courage. But the bigger changes that would transform who I am because they are more meaningful to me, that is the tougher change I speak about here. When I was digging within for my courage to show up and speak up with confidence, clarity, and connection, nothing could be found. I was digging deeper and becoming stuck in the comfort zone hole I didn't realize I was digging myself in. Then I discovered I needed to open myself to the change like a blossom opens itself up to the changes of spring. The new version of me that change was introducing me to required new information, new experiences, new people, new situations. You get the picture. New. Inside myself, where I was digging for courage, I didn't have that new stuff until I became open to observe it around me. It was the process of writing Confidence Booster, affirmations to reframe your mindset and boost confidence, that I realized I needed to trust all that I am that brought me to my present moment and then open myself to what change was trying to tell me. In that book, I share how each affirmation shifted me more into courage and a deeper trust in myself so I could step out of my comfort zone and explore. It was in this process that I became open to change through observation and stopped judging it. I realized the extra baggage I was carrying during change that I was never meant to hold on to, feeling lighter as I took focus on the parts of the bigger change that directly influenced me. That is what helped me realize who I was becoming and actively shaped it. And this is a very vulnerable and scary action to take, especially because fear is there every step trying to bring you back to your comfort zone. Yet, just like there is beauty in a blossom opening up, there is beauty in you opening yourself up to explore who you are becoming through change. For example, when you change as a person, you realize it impacts your network. Sometimes you feel lonely, a lack of connection, or like you can no longer relate. It does not mean you need to say goodbye to these relationships. It means you need to be open to meet new people because it is in those meetings you would discover the new things that may help you realize who you are becoming. Like a fruit blossom opening up so bees may see it, come to it, and say hello. Evidence of me going through a big transformation that shaped who I am was launching my first business, Blossoming Speaker. I knew so strongly its mission was to help people be confident communicators. Yet I knew it was not the whole mission. I knew change had something to do with it because I realized that change was a common thread impacting many of my clients' communication confidence. I also knew fear had something to do with it because why were many people confident to speak in one setting yet not in another? And sitting in my garden, seeing the beauty and power and transformational impact of fruit blossoms in action during spring, I knew blossoming had to be part of the business name because our journey through change is like a blossom. Speaker also had to be in the name too because of two reasons. One, what we say to ourselves is just as important as what we say to others. And two, how we speak evolves when we go through change. You see, communication grows with us. I used to believe the courage I was seeking to go through my transformational change was something I needed to dig deep inside myself to find. I became stuck and felt more afraid and lost in this process. I now know that to be courageous, I need to trust in all that I have and am in the present moment so I can be open to observe the change around me. That is how I find courage to take action. That is how I start receiving the new information, experiences, people, and circumstances that shape my next step to discover the new version of me. That is how confidence becomes real and continues to blossom with each new experience faced.